everybody out there, this is Seto, and today for you guys I'm going to be profiling for you my Blue Eyes White Dragon deck. And like I always say before I profile my Blue Eyes White Dragon deck, I ask you to please keep one thing in mind, and that is the main focus point of this deck and the main boss monster for this deck is Blue Eyes White Dragon. He is the main focal point of the deck and what the deck revolves around. You try to use Blue Eyes White Dragon for Exceed plays, Synchro plays, and just generally having a 3000 beat stick on the field to beat your opponent's face in, just for some good old-fashioned fun. So that's the main way we play the deck, and it's really fun to play it like this. There's other ways you can play Blue Eyes White Dragon, but I prefer playing it this way, as Blue Eyes White Dragon being the mainstay and the main focal point of the deck. So we run our 3 Blue Eyes White Dragon. I've had these Blue Eyes White Dragons ever since I got started in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in 2003, I believe it was, 2004. It's been so long ago, I forget. But I got them, they were some of the first cards I ever got in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! I got them from the Toys R Us, from the original Seto Kaiba structure deck. So we have our 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons. Next up, we have our 3 Maiden with the Eyes of Blue. I think if it wasn't for this card in combination with Silver's Cry, Blue Eyes White Dragon type of decks would not be able to function personally. That's just my personal opinion. But Blue Eyes White Maiden is your main way of getting your Blue Eyes White Dragon out of your deck along with Silver's Cry. So next up after that we have our 2 White Stone of Legend. Some players personally personally prefer to play 3 White Stone of Legend. Personally, I find that 3 is a little bit too much. It gets kind of cloggy. I usually want to have my Blue Eyes White Dragon in my graveyard or in my hand, because if I draw a Blue Eyes White Dragon during my draw phase, it's pretty much a dead draw. So usually by turn 2 or turn 3, I like having all my Blue Eyes White Dragons either in my graveyard or in my hand so I can use trade-in from my hand. So that's why I run 2 White Stone of Legends, because I never seem to need more than that amount. Next, I run 2 Bright Star Dragons. I've always wanted this deck to have some type of beater, and Bright Star Dragon with his effect is a pretty good beater and has a nice effect to go to help out Maiden with the Eyes of Blue, but other cards, tuners as well. So Bright Star Dragon states that when he is normal summon, you can target one monster on the field and increase its level. So we can target Maiden with the Eyes of Blue, get Maiden with the Eyes of Blue's effect off, and bring out a Blue Eyes White Dragon from our graveyard, hand, or deck. So this way you can go for a Synchro play of a level 6 or a Synchro play of a level 9. Usually you'll go with a level 9. And you also have a 1900 beat stick on the field. But sometimes you also use Bright Star Dragon with White Stone of Legend and other tuner type of monsters, so you can go for different Synchro plays. But the main focus is because he can target Maiden and get Maiden's effect off. So that's why you run 2 Bright Star Dragons, because he's a beater. He's a 1900 beater for the deck. And he has a good effect. Plus he's a light attribute which can be used with Honest as well. Then we run 2 Delta Flyer. I really like Delta Flyer in this deck because you can use Delta Flyer's level manipulation to target other cards to go into different Synchro plays. So he can help you go for your 10s, your 11s, your 8s, your 7s, your, whatever you want to. Mostly I use them for my level 8 Synchro plays and my level 7 Synchro plays, but once in a while I do use them for level 10s, so you can go into Leo, and sometimes I also use them to help me go into Star Eater with Blue Eyes White Dragon. So he's usually in there for just level manipulation, just synchro purposes. And I know a lot of people are going to say, because I run 2 Delta Flyer, I run 3 Blue Eyes White Maiden, and I also run 2 White Stone of Legend, why don't you run Cards of Consonance? And I say to that is because from playing this deck for a long time, I have found that I don't want to just send my tuners to the graveyard to draw 2 cards. I want to use my tuners for Synchro ability and purposes. So I want to use my Delta Flyer so I can go into Leos and Hot Red Dragon Archfiends and Starter Spark Dragons, and I want to use my Maiden to get my Blue Eyes out of my deck and not just pitch my Maiden to the graveyard to draw 2 cards. And my White Stone of Legends, they always usually go to the graveyard before I even can get, even if I draw them, I usually use them for Synchro ability, to go into Azure Eyes, the Silver Dragon, and I never want to pitch them from my hand. So I don't want to pitch them from my hand. I want to use them for Synchro plays. So for that reason, I don't run Cards of Consonance, because I usually don't use it that much. When I used to use it, I didn't use it that often. So Heretic Dragon of Tefnuit's a pretty good card in this deck. He's a light attribute first off. Sometimes you use him for a beat stick if he can last a turn on the field. But the main reason why you run Heretic Dragon of Tefnuit is to go for synchro plays. So let me explain. So if I want to go for a level 7 synchro play, I can go special summon, normal summon White Stone of Legend, go for a level 7 synchro play that way. White Stone of Legend hits the graveyard. Okay, now I can add a Blue Eyes White Dragon to my hand. Because I run Trade-In, I can send the Blue Eyes White Dragon to the graveyard, draw 2 cards, and it just helps precipitate your play that way. But also not just for White Stone of Legend, but you can use Heretic Dragon of Tefnuit for Maiden with the Eyes of Blue, and for Delta Flyer because you can go for big synchro plays, which is 2 card combos. So I really like him. You do run 1 Searcher because he's not integral to the deck, but he just helps go for different synchro plays, depending upon the cards you have in your hand and depending upon the plays you got on the field. So I like him as a 2 of. You have 1 Heretic Dragon of Tefnuit Confiscation, the Searcher for Heretic Dragons. You do run 1 of those, so you can search them out when you wish. Next, we run 2 Honest because of the ban list that came back. Honest really became good in this deck. I can't express enough how much this one card helped the deck out. Beside, I would say, Delta Flyer, your entire main deck is light attribute. And that's not even taking into account your entire extra deck is a good chunk of it is all light attribute. So, Honest is really good in the main deck because you can use him for main deck monsters and the extra deck. He's just amazing in this deck. Plus, sometimes you can search him out with Shining Angel, which I'll talk about a little bit later. That little play you can do, but just very good. Sometimes you can soul charge him back, so you can soul charge, pay 1,000 life points, bring Honest back, then bounce him to my hand. Now, granted, that is kind of telegraphing your opponent that, yeah, I do have an Honest in my hand, but they're going to have to play the game a little bit differently because they know that information. Then we run 1 Red MD, and Red MD is amazing in this deck. I mean, it's a dragon-based deck, but some cool plays you can do with Red MD is you can go special summon Tefnuit, tribute, banish it, bring out Red MD, activate Red MD's effect, bring another monster back, and then you can normal summon like a Delta Flyer or White Stone of Legend or whatever you want to and go for a big synchro play. So you have a big synchro play you've just done and you have a Red MD on board. That's pretty dang good in my opinion. So that's why we run that guy. Then we run 1 Shining Angel. The reason why we run 1 Shining Angel is simply because of the fact of the matter is Shining Angel can help search out for a lot of things in your deck. He can help search out for your Honest. He can help search out your White Stone of Legend if you want to go for a synchro play if your opponent's not going to attack you for the rest of the turn. But the main thing you use Shining Angel for, besides searching out Honest, is Maiden with the Eyes of Blue. To make Wonder Wand more live and to just be able to bring out a stall card to bide you a turn or so. So that's why we run Shining Angel. You don't have to run him, but I just find him very helpful to help thin out your deck and search through cards. And sometimes you use him for synchro fodder as well. So next for your spell cards, we run 3 Silver's Cry. Some people find Silver's Cry to get a little bit too cloggy, but I find 3 Silver's Cry is perfectly fine because it is a quick play spell. And besides Blue Eyes White Maiden, I've always felt that this card and Blue Eyes White Maiden is the reason that Blue Eyes White Dragon is actually playable competitively to some degree. You can debate about that in today's game. So because Silver's Cry, I like it running as a 3 of, it's a quick play spell because you can set 1, activate 1 on your turn, and like doing your opponent's in phase, you can just go in phase, chain, Silver's Cry, bring a Blue Eyes White Dragon back. So it's very versatile because it's a quick play spell, so I like it as a 3 of, and I always want to see this card very fast when I'm dueling. The next card we run is we run 3 Trade-In and 2 Dragon Shrine. So I'm going to try to explain as best as possible here, guys, this little combo that I like using. So granted, first off, I know I only have, my 3 targets for Trade-In over here. I only have 3 Blue Eyes White Dragon. Now granted, I have tried Trihorn Dragon out, I've tried Duststorm Dragon, the Gemini one out before, but I found that just adding those to the deck, just to make Trade-In a little bit more live, was just adding inconsistencies into the deck, just to activate a Trade-In. And I find that if I get a Blue Eyes White Dragon in my hand, I just want to trade in a trade-in card as soon as I can so I can pitch it and draw 2 cards. So the cool little play you can do with this deck with Dragon Shrine and Trade-In is you can activate your Dragon Shrine, send a Blue Eyes White Dragon to the graveyard. Because you sent a normal monster, you can send another card. So you can send a White Stone of Legend to the graveyard. Because you sent White Stone of Legend to the graveyard, you can now add another Blue Eyes White Dragon from your deck and add them to your hand because you sent White Stone of Legend. Then you can activate Trade-In and send Blue Eyes White Dragon to the graveyard now to draw 2 more cards because you had Trade-In in your hand. So if you have a Dragon Shrine and a Trade-In in your opening hand, you're golden and you'll be pretty good to go. So by doing this this combo play, you have thinned your deck out considerably of dead draws. Like I said earlier, you don't want to have Blue Eyes White draw a Blue Eyes White Dragon. You want to have Blue Eyes White Dragon in the graveyard for your Silver's Cry and your Call of the Haunted plays and your Azure Eyes White Dragon plays, or you want to have him in your hand to activate Trade-In. You never want to draw Blue Eyes. That's a dead draw, pretty much. So now you've thinned out your deck considerably of dead draws, and you've drawn into your deck a little bit deeper. That's pretty nice. So that's why I like the Trade-In and Dragon Shrine. And if Trade-In becomes dead in your hand, you have Scrap Dragon. You have other ways to pop your dragon, your Trade-Ins to get effects, to pop cards on field. You also have the ability of you using it as MST bait and other things of that nature. So I find that 3 Trade-In is kind of a necessary evil, and it just can come in handy. Yes, there's other ways you can play the deck, but I find that way is kind of the best way, in my personal opinion, to just use Blue Eyes White Dragon as your main boss monster. It's kind of hard to explain, but that's the way I like running it. Then I run 2 Wonder Wands. The reason I run 2 Wonder Wands is because of White Stone Maiden with the Eyes of Blue. Again, people may disagree with me on this. Same reason why I run 3 Trade-In and a Dragon Shrine in the way I use them. Plus, I'll also mention that Dragon Shrine, even if you have sent all your Blue Eyes White Dragons to the graveyard, you can activate that Dragon Shrine to thin your deck out of dead draws. So say, I got all my Blue Eyes White Dragons in graveyard, so I don't need a White Stone of Legend. Just send that White Stone of Legend to the graveyard, because if that's eliminating a dead draw out of your deck, so to speak, if all your Blue Eyes White Dragons are already in your graveyard. But back onto Wonder Wand now. The reason why we use Wonder Wand is for Blue Eyes White Maiden. So I found that through playing this deck that Blue Eyes White Maiden, sometimes you'll use Blue Eyes White Maiden as a stall card, in that respect. But most of the time, when your opponent attacks your Blue Eyes White Maiden, 99% of the time, they are going to have an out to that Blue Eyes White Dragon. Because they know if they're attacking a Blue Eyes White Maiden, they know what happens. They know Blue Eyes White Dragon is going to come out and say hello. And they, a 3000 beat stick is nothing to sniff your nose at, even in today's game. But they probably have an out if they're attacking your Blue Eyes White Maiden. So I find it best to target your Blue Eyes White Maiden, get her effect off to get Blue Eyes out of the graveyard, deck, or hand on your turn. And Wonder Wand is one of those ways you can do that. So what you do is pretty much you can activate, normal summon your Blue Eyes White Maiden, activate your Wonder Wand, and by tributing your Blue Eyes White Maiden, because of Wonder Wand's effect, you can bring out your Blue Eyes White Dragon and draw 2 cards. You may say that's not a lot, but I find that can be very helpful to some degree, depending upon your hand setup. You're thinning through your deck, you're setting up plays, you're setting up combo plays, you got 3000 beat stick on the field. Depending upon the way the duel is going, it can be very, very helpful. So I like 2 Wonder Wand for that aspect. Yes, you only have 3 targets, but most of the time Wonder Wand is live, in my personal opinion, for me. Next, I run 2 Forbidden Lances. You run this to help, prevent, with your big Synchro plays and your big Exceed plays and just protect them. You can use it on the offensive and defensive perspective. Next, you run 1 Dragon Confiscation. A Heretic Seal of Confiscation. You run this so you can search out your Heretic Dragon of Tefnuit to go for your big Synchro plays. Then for your one-ofs, you run 1 1-for-1, 1 Book of Moon, 1 Regeki, 1 Soul Charge. Soul Charge, just use all your resources up in your graveyard so you can go for bigger plays. Regeki, blow up the field, attack with a 3000 Blue Eyes White Dragon. Good times. Book of Moon, versatile. And 1-for-1 so you can bring out your Blue Eyes White Maiden and your White Stone of Legends quicker and make Wonder Wand a little bit more live. Then for your traps, we run 2 Fiendish Chains to stop things like Castell, 101, Big Eye, things that are going to affect your big play abilities like your Exceeds and Synchros. Then we run 1 Call of the Haunted. You can run more, but I just find 1 is good enough so you can bring back your big monsters. Then for your last ones, I run 1 Bottomless and one compulsory evacuation device. I do not run Solemn Warning in this deck simply because the fact that I find that even though you are playing Blue Eyes White Dragon and Blue Eyes White Dragon's amazing, a 3000 vanilla beat stick as your boss monster is going to cause some problems. You're probably going to take a lot of hits from your opponent, and Solemn Warning can be dead a lot of the time, I have found. And you're already running Soul Charge, so your life points can go down very low, and you'll be in the range of Heartland Dragos and Cowboys, and you don't want that. So next for your level 8, you only exceed monsters. You run 1107 because he can come in handy in certain situations. Heretic Dragon, Overlord of the Heliopolis for spot removal. And Divine Dragon, Knight Failgrant is your main one you go into because he's pretty dang good. Then for your Synchro monsters, you run 1 Star Eater, 1 Leo. These are pretty much you can go into fairly easy. Usually you go into them every other duel or every duel, so they're pretty good. Then for your boss Synchro monster, you run 2 Azure Eyes Silver Dragon. It's your pretty much boss monster for Blue Eyes White Dragon decks, and it's an amazing card. Can't say much more about it. Then we won 1 Hot Red Dragon Archfiend, 1 Starter Spark Dragon, 1 Scrap Dragon. Hot Dragon Red Archfiend, just push through all your opponent's stuff and beat them down. Starter Spark Dragon, you can target your Blue Eyes White Maiden and get a Blue Eyes White Dragon out of the deck, or grave, or hand, or whatever. So you can target your Maiden and get Maiden's effect off, which is kind of nice. And Scrap Dragon Archfiend, pop your dead 1/1s, whatever you have, to destroy certain cards on your opponent's field. Can be very nice. And plus it's a 2800 beat stick as well, which comes in handy sometimes. Then for your level 7s, I was thinking of maybe adding another level 7, but I just couldn't find the space at the moment right now. So I won 1 Scrap Dragon Archfiend as just a beater. I won the new Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, which came out of the 5Ds manga a couple of weeks ago. This card's amazing. Then we won the regular Black Rose Dragon for nuking the field. If you want to run other level 7s, go right ahead. It's the one level you go into the most, I find. But I just couldn't find the room. I didn't know what to drop at the moment. So I won 1 Goyo Guardian and 1 Armadeus Keeper of the Boundaries. Goyo Guardian because sometimes you go into them, and Armadeus Keeper of the Boundary because sometimes you go into him. Plus he's a light attribute, so he can work with Honest. So there you go there. So guys, I hope you all enjoyed this Blue Eyes White Dragon deck profile. I know the deck is a little bit complex. I know I do play the deck a little bit differently compared to other people. But this deck is just a really fun deck. Like I said before, the main star of this deck is Blue Eyes White Dragon. He is the star of the deck. These 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons are supposed to be the stars of the deck. And because of that reason, and you're running a 3000 vanilla, it's a hindrance in some respect, even in today's game. Because you're running a 3000 vanilla, you're going to take hits. It's not supposed to be super competitive. It's not going to be, a top tier deck, but it's a fun deck where you can abuse Blue Eyes White Dragon and have just some good old-fashioned fun, which is one of the reasons why I love still playing Yu-Gi-Oh! To this day. And that's the way I try to play this deck. So I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope you learned it. I hope I know I explained things a lot in very much detail, but hope you guys can give this video a thumbs up if you love Blue Eyes White Dragon. No matter what type of Blue Eyes White Dragon deck you play, go Blue Eyes White Dragon. I hope you all enjoyed it. And this is one of my favorite decks of all time, and it just brings back good old memories from when I was a kid. So take care, everybody out there. Seto Kaiba, I'm out for you guys, and please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and love Blue Eyes White Dragon. Take care, everybody. Seto Kaiba, I'm out for you guys. Till next time.